And see if all that. Hello, Kelly. Thank you for joining us this time. Come on down. Come on in.
Okay. Hello, Matthew. How are you?
Good. Where's your video? There you are. There we go.
There I am. There I am.
Awesome. So I was warned about you. Apparently I'm supposed to have.
Oh, good work. Because I also self-bell.
Okay. Well, you can bell me then. So this is for us to try to not go off on crazy tangents as much as possible, everybody, because every time Kelly and I get together, we tend to have a whole bunch of fun and geek out on techie fun stuff. So um, we probably should give all of them a bit, all right? Maybe
Right?
Zoom will come up with that later. So this week we've got a full presentation. We've got some questions from our group to kind of go through and discuss. But then I figured, workflow watering hole, we should kind of go through some workflow stuff. Before we do that, though, I'll share my screen, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everybody that's here.
Oh, okay. And what's fun is I see some of my little friendies in there. Not little. I see some of my accounting friendies in there. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, so I'm Kellie Parks. I'm from Ontario, Canada. Under normal circumstances, I am a bit of a traveling nomad, though. I spend a good part of the winter down in Florida, and we road trip back and forth. We love our road trips and our live music, and we take one big trip a year. So, and that's mostly because I'm cloud. That is because I'm cloud based. And I had a marketing company for years ahead of time, and I was cloud based in my marketing company too. So I've actually been doing this whole remote traveling gig since 2009, and then cloud based accounting since 2012. And anyways, I'm a tech geek, and I live in a bit of a wreck of an old 100-year-old cabin that we're renovating, but I did smart home the entire thing. It's totally tech geeked out, which is awesome. Yeah. So
Beautiful. I
that's
think,
me.
what was the first time we actually had the chance to meet? Was it, I don't remember if it was actually QuickBooks Connect in San Jose or if it was up in Toronto, of course.
I think
I
it
miss
was. That's a good question. I don't know which one it was because now we've met at a few of them.
Yeah, they all
I
blur
should
to.
mention that I should mention that I'm a bookkeeper too. Love being a bookkeeper. That's my happy world. So where did we meet? Yeah, one of the connects, and then we met at some of the connects after that.
Yes. You start to realize exactly how small this whole community is, even
Yeah.
how large the world is, right? When you start to get to meet people and share ideas back and forth with each other. So,
Yes, I'm certainly going to miss connects. That's for sure. Because I don't feel they're coming back.
I
We've
don't
got
think
one
so.
last one in June here in Canada, but it's virtual. And then I think that ship has sailed.
Yep.
Oh, hopefully they'll release us from Canada jail and I will be at Scaling New Heights.
We're going to count on that. If not, we will abduct you. I'll send up a suitcase and you can squeeze into it.
Right.
What do you say? Let's jump into some of the stuff we've got for the day today and kind of get going from there. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
So one of our first questions here, I have a current client that has sold his business to my new client. Is it possible to import old client list, chart of accounts, employees, vendors, etc., to the new QBO file, either the whole file or in pieces per list? I don't see that export feature for that. And then, of course, if converting to desktop in order to go back up to QBO without data, how would that be done by limiting all the activities and starting fresh with the new QBO file? So I thought this would be a good one to kind of discuss, and we can actually pull up our respective QuickBooks Onlines, because there are like 12 different ways to do this depending on what your goal is, right? So what's your process on this, or what questions would you be asking to figure out?
Okay, so I'm going to start with that in Canada. And if you want to, can I share my screen?
Go for it. Yep.
Okay, and let me just find my share screen thing. Share screen. There we go. This is my cabin in the winter.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's much nicer outside.
Nice
This is
truck.
where I'm standing right now. This is my actual she shed office right here.
Inside there though.
Yeah, inside. Yes, I work inside in the winter. Okay, so here in Canada, we don't have the option to go to desktop. That just doesn't exist for us. But export data is fairly robust for us. So you can export a whole series of lists and reports in a fairly simple manner. And if you want to, you can also export the chart of accounts. So when you are in the chart of accounts, you can export that if my internet will cooperate. My internet's a little bit like me. It's a little dull and slow at the end of the day. So you
Dollar
can
slow, is that what you said?
dull and slow at the end of the day.
Oh.
So I didn't mean to get to do that. You can actually export it. You know, it's not going to do that for me because it's a live demo. Actually, you know what? I've got a workflow on that.
I can pull up on my side too, because I think it's pretty much the export aspect, I think, is close to the same, right? Where it's you're just choosing which things you want to go to an Excel file, basically.
Yeah, and so I'm just looking to see where you can, but you can export the chart of accounts super easy.
Wow, look at this.
Yeah, right. So it's got all of the what you need to do to move over to different accounts, including the reports that I would run, how to do a fresh start,
Wow.
a desktop to what do you call it, migration, and then rewind, advanced, restore. But what I was really going to say though is for us importing, and we had this discussion in the workflow, I believe it was in the workflow watering hole.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have this because there was somebody who was determined that this was not something that we could do. But you can see that you can really, it's literally a one click. This one right here, bills. So you can't bring in expenses, but you can bring in bills. But expenses you could easily bring over with a CSV file from the from the bank data, right?
Mhm.
You could bring over either a .qbo or a CSV file on that. So that's where you would pick up your sales receipts and your invoices. But I did with Tiffany Stewart helping me concatenate. Tiffany and I were sitting right here in this shed geeking out on Excel one day while my other girlfriend Nadine was sitting over there going, "You guys are geeks." And she helped me bring in once I got the data cleaned up fine in the file, I brought over 600 bills in under half an hour using direct import through QuickBooks Online. It was a cleanup file, obviously.
So in the US, I was pulling it up on my side. We do not have the bills import. Let's see here. So we've got bank data, we've got customers, we've got vendors, suppliers, same thing, chart accounts, product services, and invoices. Journal entries and bills do not exist for us.
That's a shame because look at these two little beauties, right? And
Yeah.
so they give you a CSV to map to. And really, I had some naming issues in the file that I was given of the bills. And once Tiffany helped me clean that up, there was a caveat. I couldn't do all 600 at once. I had to do them in smaller batches. It overwhelmed the system. Yep. But once I realized that, I was good to go. It was fantastic.
Beautiful. So now this, the only difficulty sometimes with parts of this, I guess it depends on how good the template is, right? Generally their templates, like for customers, you don't have all of the same like shipping billing address. You don't have all of like the little details through all of it in comparison to if you were to be able to export like the US. I heard that they just established the ability. I'm going to steal the share here and kind of show this part also. Let's see, number 3, boom, boom. They reestablished the ability to export to desktop. So gear icon, come up here, go export data, skip over that. And then like you were talking about, so you've got your list type things you can do, where if you just want to do list reports, all this, you can choose which ones, export to Excel, or come down here, moving to desktop. This will then pull up. And this is where I always get lost on this because I can't seem to find there's a new tool that you're supposed to be able to use to convert to desktop, the desktop migration tool. But I've heard from people that they've recently done this. When I click here, I can't ever find it. When they've done this, they're able to take it, pull it right back into desktop, so you can get backup copies, and then you could do that full round trip if you wanted to. And again, one of the reasons kind of to do that, we always like to do it when we offboard a client because we want to get a snapshot. We want a full copy of the company file that we can save for future. So somebody can't come back also in case they need it, number one, but they can't come back and kind of, blame us for something wrong also.
Okay, I'm going to show you a trick that I love when it comes to offboarding clients or a client. I mean, I hate to say it, but right now there's clients going under. They don't need their files anymore. I have this running on a regular basis. These backups, I have a client that they run every week. For me, they run every month. And for regular clients, monthly is plenty enough. And they are emailed on a schedule into the receipt bank account. And so, and the client always has a copy of them. You could easily have them, you could CC them because you can send them to a number of locations. I haven't in my demo account. And that way you always have something going on. But when you are disengaging with a client, you can simply go to previous year and you could actually export an entire series of reports. I just did this for a client. So I did 7 years worth just to make sure that we were covered. And yeah, it didn't take me any time at all because I have them as a group. Then I just went back and I rolled the years back. Because if you do your custom reports properly.
I was just going to say, you need to show like this is a super great little trick that we love. Didn't we talk about this like such a long time ago or something?
So if you want to open them all at once, right, you just you create a folder of the custom reports. And then that opens all of those reports at once. Now, I've rewritten the code too, because I'm a complete code nerd. And I rewrote the code so that these bookmarks here always have the client company name and logo. When you use a bookmark report, it will always have the data of the file that you're in, but
the wrong name on it.
It'll have the wrong name on it. Yeah. So I rewrote the code. I can show you how if you want. Everybody want to know how to rewrite the header code? Just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, we got to be careful because we're almost Bell, but I want to see it. So, like, so
all I'm saying is create a series of custom reports, and you don't even have to rewrite the code. It doesn't matter what the name and the logo is. If you put those custom reports into the series, you can open them all at once, and that's data to review only. You're only going to look at the data. You don't need to do anything with it. But if you want to report on the data, if you create these nice, neat things. So this one, for example, is how I don't do taxes. This is how I send off all of my reports at once to the tax accountant, and they get one PDF. They're not overwhelmed either.
So you don't use the management reports, like you don't combine that way. And
you know what? I liked them at first, and then I screwed around with them a lot, and they didn't change the way that I wanted them to. And then some months they would magically have reports missing. It could have been me. I didn't form a true love of them. I formed a true love of being lazy and exporting all at once. And it's nice and neat and tidy. I go into my folder, the monthly folder previous, and they're all in one report. I can just open them all up at once. There.
Okay, so I got to pull you back in real quick here because I've gotten a phrase and a duh yes. So go back, show us how you change it. Let's explain. We need to explain the URL because you and I understand that the way this actually works, and when you're bookmarking these reports, what has to happen, and if you can get rid of that, thank you. The URL that you're seeing at the top there, how ugly it is, that's got the specifics about the structure of the report. So that's what you need to bookmark. And if you actually had it saved, then you opened it, it would open up with a smaller URL, and that won't work the same way.
No. So you need to, right here, true and company name, you would take this out.
Okay.
Oh, and leave in title because we want the title. of the reports, you take out
Yeah.
that, and you do back here, you make the logo true. It's probably going to show it's false.
Ah,
You make logo true. Uh,
I took and actually copied
title,
that into Excel one time and broke out the different sections to look at it. I'll see if I can find it and put it into like the chat afterwards. Because you're right.
I
If you
sell,
just kind of look at each thing,
I sell this bookmark bar.
there you
You
go.
can just buy it. You can just buy it from me. I've rewritten the code. I've done the whole thing. So this actual bookmark bar, and
Yeah.
I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just saying you can go ahead and rewrite the code on 100 reports if you want, or you can
That's
spend $75 and buy it from me, right?
I think we're all pretty smart with time and it's a better value with you. So
Okay. So, anyways,
love it.
if you want to, though, you change logo to true, and you change you take out the company name.
I love it. So hopefully, you know, again, there's a couple different ways you can do the flip around. So you can get your data out, you can pull it down. There's also companies like Export My Books, but now they've developed and they're paying for it now, but that's a great resource. You can choose how many years you want. That's another option. But if you don't have a lot of data, just pulling the list stuff should be super easy to pull it back and forth. I mean, definitely ways to do all of those.
Yep.
So I'm going to steal the share back here. We'll go to the next quick question here. And let's go in about 3. And our next one here is, all right, so this is more of a quick talk about it type thing. Working on some projects for a plumbing company and implementing a new dispatch software that integrates with QB. They'd already had a QB girl who said not to move them from desktop to online until the second quarter, start of any quarter, for tax reasons. Why would this be? Now, can you think of any reason? The consensus basically was payroll for a quarter, right? That you don't want to mess around with. Anytime you can do payroll at the beginning of the year is best. If not the beginning of the year, on a quarter. Could you think of any other reason maybe?
Well, I don't think that person was likely Canadian, or maybe they were, but here in Canada, we do have quarterly HST filers. We have the VAT tax. We have quarterly HST filers. So that may
Great add-on. Same thing, US. Good point. Yeah.
That would be that. I would actually recommend that. Don't move in the middle of a fiscal quarter.
So best practices, it just keeps your reporting nice and clean. You're less likely to have mesh up stuff, right? If you wait.
Yeah, well, the thing with HST, so for us, the reconciliations don't come over, and some of the reporting doesn't come over, custom reporting. And so if that's the case, you don't want to be mixing two files to try and figure out if your HST is correct. You want to use one sales tax module or the other, or you want to hack it out of a balance sheet. You don't want to be mixing two QB platforms if it's a quarterly filing.
And actually, so US version, they've redone the sales tax module completely. A lot of thumb downs on it so far, some, back and forth, and it definitely would interact differently. And that could be another reason. So nobody had actually brought up sales tax. So I think that is a great add-on to it. Let's see, our next question we've got here is, all right, so my client had an incident. I thought this was an interesting story to draw attention to. As accountants, bookkeepers, it's kind of important for us to help remind our clients about their potential liability or risk for this. So basically, client had an incident involving QB payments. His customer used the ACH bank payment on his invoice for receiving the goods. Shortly after receiving and keeping the merchandise, he disputed the transaction. My client filed a police report for the stolen goods fraudulent activity. And this is a hard one. Like, have you had to deal with merchant services this way, trying to get back money from somebody who pulled a fraud claim before?
Well, we don't have ACH on QBO in Canada, but okay. Let's just talk about merchant disputes in general. That generally, you take it up with the bank at that point, right? Who's actually like my merchant provider is Square.
Okay.
Which is the same as QBO. But I get a notice from my Visa I
That's
don't get I from my bank. I
okay.
get a notice from my bank. I don't get a notice from Stripe or Square. I don't think. Oh yeah, no, wait. I
Yeah, I think
let's
you would actually
hold
contest it
on,
with
back it
Square.
all up. That's wrong. It is Square who sends me the dispute.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a swing and a miss on the QBO merchant thing.
That so with merchant processing, that for me running businesses, that's one of those ones that's so important about relationships, right? That generally you always want to have a good relationship with your merchant processor if you can, if you're doing a lot of
Right.
merchant processing, because you've got history, you need them to have your back when it comes time. Because hopefully this never happens. If it does, it seldom happens, and you're protected instead of I think I had asked and it was like a $1,400 hit. So that means you lost $1,400 plus your $1,400 product. So that's a chunk. You know, it's very disappointing. So, and it sounds like if they did it that way, the one of the questions I was asking them was if it was online, always trying to make sure the client is the one that's putting the information in, right? So as accountants, we may do it a little different for our clients where we have them fill out the form and then we try to put it in, put the details in. You want to make sure you've got that authorization that's signed that will give
Yeah.
you that extra like layer of protection.
Yeah, and I'm not here to slam anything. Running any of these programs it's I don't know, it's a nightmare. You couldn't pay me to be an app dev. But the like Square sent me a note right away,
Mhm.
and then I could go ahead and dispute it. So I didn't need to go to going to the police part of it would have been way down the line.
Yeah, this one did have some they referenced the fact that there was no notifications that were activated on the account. They are now. So there could have been timeline that was involved to it
Right.
as well. It's a great point that you bring up. So
Okay.
um, it's a bummer all the way around, but
It is a
make
bummer
sure
all the way
clients
around.
know they got to protect themselves.
Yeah, and yeah, Kelly Hollis is making a really good point. It's ACH, so
Yeah.
which is probably somewhat different. Who knows, right?
Yes. So now I thought this was a good one.
Yeah.
Was being asked was for CPE videos. So they have some CPE videos that they want to transcribe for personal use. Videos are only available on the provider's website and I can't download them. What's the best software for doing that? So first, right off, 100% disclaimer. You absolutely should be asking permission to do this, and otherwise you could be getting in trouble. What I'm going to share with you is what I use to transcribe my videos, because I have permission with myself. If you get what I'm saying, everybody, right? So,
Yeah, if you
um,
can't download them, there's probably a reason.
yeah, and exactly, it's what it does sound like is the question of the intent is to have like a written record to be able to reference back to take notes off of, but not actually trying to like directly copy and like use or plagiarize or anything else.
Yeah, no, it's a great
Um,
question.
so whenever I'm trying to, if I've got something that I need to record and take a copy of, one of the things you can do, of course, is this is Zoom, as we are now. When you share your screen in Zoom, you have this little button at the bottom that's share sound. If you check that box off, that's going to make it to where audio that's coming through will be captured as well. Part of the reason I start with this here is you can then utilize services like Otter.ai, where Otter.ai will tag right into Zoom. It integrates, and you can have it to where during any meeting that you're doing, it will start to transcribe automatically the meeting for you. So when it's done, it has a little processing time, and it will give you different breakouts. You can go in every one of these programs, unless there's a human factor that's like checking them after the fact, will still require you to go in and touch up and clean up and change words, so forth and such. But they've gotten better. I mean, they've got like vocabulary you can put inside of it. It's definitely worth it. I like to use it for captions. The other one, and then I'm going to ask Kelly if you use something like this as well, is Happyscribe. Happyscribe is one. It's an AppSumo deal that I picked up a while back, thanks to my good old friend Linda told me about it. This one, same kind of concept. You're going through, you're listening, and you're watching the transcription, changing it, making sure it's correct. I like that you can see the transcription at the same time. It just has more visual to it. But what I loved about this is AppSumo deal. I paid one price, lifetime. I'm not paying monthly for it. So
Yeah.
do you use anything like this for doing like captions and transcription?
Actually, because I do most of so I'm just going to speak to my own videos, because I do most of them either through Loom, which now has transcription. Yeah. So, or at least I've got
Nice.
it's in beta, so I'm not sure if it's rolled out entirely, but I've had transcription for maybe 6 months now, and it's working fine. And it's really ugly how I speak. And then, oh, that's so fun.
I just
And
forgot actually that Zoom does it as well, but I don't know
yes,
that it
I was going to say Zoom.
records it.
Yeah, Zoom is also in beta. No, they are, transcription is either in or coming. They do have caption, which is what you're using right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
But I do believe that transcription is either coming or it's going to be soon. So basically, I mean, I haven't been transcribing a whole lot anyways. I don't do a whole lot of video content. And now that Loom's got it, I'm pretty happy with it because that's what I use for my videos. And if
So
anybody's seen my videos, they're junk.
no, you don't
Yeah.
ever do stuff. You don't ever do junk stuff. I've always used Zoom.
No, I meant the quality. I meant like the ums and the so's and
Oh yeah, yeah.
and the
The fillers. Yeah, mine actually. And so Richard Rope has pointed this out to me, and now I hear it every time. It drives me nuts. The word literally. And Tanya's in here. She'll vouch for it. I was on a conversation, very long conversation with him, and he counted 55 literallys over a period of time. So now I'm calling myself out. You guys can all call me out on it when I say it. Literally, I need the help on it. Exactly.
Literally, that's an issue.
It literally is, exactly. So these type of systems, what that would do is after you basically, if you did a screen capture record, you would be able to use it to get a transcription that you would be doing for your own video. If you understand what I'm saying, is the best suggestion that I have for that. So now the rest of the story. So since we have two people here that are workflow specialists and like playing with this stuff all the time, I kind of figured like some people don't really, when you say what's workflow design, right? Some people don't really know what that means. Would you define what workflow means to you, to everybody? And like, what is that?
Getting shit done.
Huh? Getting shit, exactly right.
So
yes.
Workflow design to me is you decide what the outcome is that you want, and then like by and large, workflow is a checklist. It's a checklist of how you're going to get to the outcome that you're hoping to achieve. So
Absolutely.
you've got to make your way through the task. Now, workflow in my world includes things, the communications that you need. Are you going to gather information? Are you going to need to send some emails or Slack messages or however it is that you're communicating? And is one workflow going to start to activate another workflow? Onboarding would be a great example of that. Yeah. You would have the prospecting phase, which basically is hopefully a short prospect questionnaire. Mm-hmm. And then a longer one if the first one is solid. And then somewhere in there, a longer one and a phone call. I think those two things need to go hand in hand, right? At one point, you got to talk to the person if you're going to be collaborating with them. You can get a whole lot out of a phone call or a Zoom, way more than you can get out of
way
more, right? But then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to quote them. Yep. And you need to, so then there's like a secondary workflow. Now you got a whole other piece to it where you've got to do a file review. So you're going to have to get a contract saying, hey, I'm only reviewing the file. I'm not doing anything in here. And I promise not to tell anybody anything, right?
Yep. And privacy agreements, all that.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got 35, 40 things to check on it. And then you've got to get those things into a summary document. And then you've got to host a Zoom meeting with them. So the checklists are the items that you have to get done in order to get to some of the actions. But everybody complicates it. They think workflows are this or that. No, at its core, it's a checklist.
So a repeatable process. Now,
Yeah.
I'm pretty darn certain, because I know you actually have templates on this as well. You are a big fan of 17 hats, right?
Yep.
So to illustrate exactly what you're talking about, this is 17 hats that we have basically set up where very basic comparison to some of the probably have, where new lead comes in, they fill out a form on our website, automatically gets pulled in, sets into the leads. We contact them, we update their information. Once we're done with the first conversation, we send them an email, and the initial email will go out and let's see what I'm trying to do here. The email will go out with a brochure on it also, so people will know.
Right.
Where's it going here? We'll have a brochure about a company information. Once that's done, so go step by step by step by step, and you can make it to where each little thing keeps moving along is the whole point.
Yes.
There are so many different apps that do this type of stuff, of course, and like you said, the PDF you guys can download, so I won't read through all this stuff, but you nailed it. Workflow, it's a process that you can repeat. It's a recurring process you can do over and over again to simplify it, make sure that nothing's being missed along the way.
But I think the point that a lot of people miss.
Yep.
So I come from a project management branding background.
Okay.
And in that, so I did compliance work then too. So it was with the banks, the insurance companies, all of that. And everything hinged on the Securities Commission's deadlines and our accuracy of the product that went out. So it had to go out on time, and they didn't care if we misspelled the vice president's name. They cared very much about the actual data, financial data that was in there, let's say. Okay, so we called them workbacks, and we started with the outcome.
Okay.
What do we need to have done by when that's going to keep us all out of hot water and make our shareholders happy? So always, when you're doing a workflow, start with what the outcome is. There is no point starting at the beginning. You need to start at the end run. Well, I don't mean you need to. It's all in.
It's strongly suggested and more successful if you do.
Yeah, because you need to know if you don't know what it is you're trying to achieve, then it's really hard to do a good job of your workflow.
Agreed.
I think I've over-explained.
Well, actually, so everything you're saying. So one of the things I said is, if you're going to go through this process, you need to interview the stakeholders is usually what I would talk about. And you need to figure out, in a sense, what are the data points? So what's the mission and vision from the stakeholders? What's their pain points? You need to evaluate like the sales cycle. So like there's this beginning interview is what I like to call it, to find out more about how things are currently being done. And before you can try to help improve and streamline the exact process itself. And if you don't know,
but actually, Tanya really makes a good point in there. What are you trying to do? So even before you start to analyze what their processes are, what's the end run?
Absolutely.
What is the ultimate thing that you are trying to achieve? So let's talk about onboarding, and then we'll get back to your slide deck. Onboarding. My outcome for onboarding is that I have harmoniously engaged a client. We are 100% ready to work together, and they are the right fit for me. So what that means is I need to have covered all of the information gathering, because I want to be ready to work with the client when we hit the go button. Because in the beginning, when I didn't have a great process for it, you'd go back, oh, I don't have this. Oh, I don't have your incorporation documents. Oh, I don't have your trial balance from last year. Oh. Well, that's not the way to start off a harmonious relationship. And so I don't even engage a client until I have gathered all the information, because that's a stopping point. If they don't get all the stuff to me, then they're never going to get all the stuff to me. So I don't even do my engagement letter until they have given me everything I need so that I can start to work tomorrow on their files.
Very well said. I am so guilty of doing it the wrong way like that. You are, as Tanya, I'm sure it's Tanya saying, preaching to the choir right now, that you're right. Because if they won't give it to you up front when their pain is the realist, right? Why would they do it later on when it's not as, they don't feel it as much? It's a
Yeah.
great
And
point.
so, it's the same with your bookkeeping workflows. What's the outcome? So my outcome is compliant, useful books that I can collaborate on helping my clients make better business decisions. But then that ties directly into a vision in
Mhm.
that if my client needed or wanted to sell, needed or wanted financing to grow, or needed or wanted, never want, needed to say to an auditor, sure, how soon can you come in? I want my clients' books to be in that
Ooh,
kind of shape. And now I do real-time bookkeeping,
yeah.
right? But so it's that those are so my outcomes directly relate to what my vision of the type of books that I'm doing are. And then work back from there. What's the order that you need to do, and and back to bookkeeping, you're back to what do I need to gather? When
Yep.
do I need to gather it? Who is going to give it to me? Um, so it's the who, what, when of all of that, because you've already outlined what the why is.
Okay, so now I got two questions in regards to this. One of
Okay.
them being, as especially when you're just bringing a client on, it makes a lot of sense. Get me everything I need. Totally makes sense. Now you're 6 months into the engagement.
Mm.
How are you keeping your clients getting you those statements or getting you that IRS letter as quick as possible, whatever it may be, to keep it real-time bookkeeping? How are you keeping them on, keeping them consistent?
Well, it depends on the client. Some of them need the auto nagging,
Okay.
right? So some of them need a little poke. I have one client that I don't need to send him anything, but his partner needs a little more poking, right?
Okay.
They have different roles in the company,
Yep.
but they kind of get used to either my auto nagging.
I love auto nagging too.
I
Tanya
love
said
auto
that's
nagging,
a great
right?
terminology, auto nagging.
Love auto nagging, and I'm not going to go on and on about 17 hats, but it's so cool because with all of the custom fields and all of the tokens, it
Hmm.
makes it feel so real to the client. You're using their name, you're
Yes.
giving them the link to their portals. Like, so the biggest thing is to make it easy for them. Every single thing that I want my client to do, I want it to be easy. So if I need them to upload somewhere, I
Yep.
don't make them remember where that is.
Put it in front of them, right?
I either give them a link to it or I give them instructions to it. So
Okay.
I need bank statements from one of my clients because QBO isn't picking them up for that particular bank.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to yell TD out loud. And so he, it's totally part of his rhythm now because they are motivated. Now I don't have that many clients.
Okay.
But the clients that I have, part of my ideal client profile, and this really helps. Like this is the start of it. What's your
Yeah.
ideal client look like? Mine is really engaged in their books. I want them to harass me to get their books done.
That's the
I
real time aspect of it, right? I mean, for you to
Yeah,
be able to do real time books means you need a real time partner to be able to do it. So,
yeah, yeah. So part of my collaboration is the fact that it's the type of client that I've looked for. But I have one client, I've had her forever. She's sweet as heck. She gets quite a bit of auto nagging,
I love
and
it.
that's fine. She's worth it, if you will.
So, I want to pull back some of the curtains on some of the other aspects of what you can do with workflow and some of the apps and pieces that I know you work with all the time that can help us put this stuff together.
Right.
For example, what I mean is what I like to call bridge apps.
Yeah.
Um, there's one piece that, like when I'm designing workflows, first, before I get to the bridge app, I like using an application called Lucidchart. And what I like to do with it is be able to create like these visual diagrams
Hmm.
when I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the best workflow. Like e-commerce, especially at the beginning, was a great example of it. When you start having like really complicated interactions, this
Yep.
kind of stuff really just helps to make it easy.
Yep.
Um, Cheap program, love that you can pull and save all the little icons. So over time, it becomes a lot easier to rebuild these over and over again.
Right.
Now, bridge applications, as we're seeing here, these are just a whole bunch of names of things I kind of pulled up. Zapier makes you happier. This is something everybody's heard about. I call it a bridge app because it basically, it's like a soft integration. It's a way to take one application and do certain things to another by bridging the gap between them. And you can test certain workflows, especially if you work with developers before you maybe hard code a full development if you need to do that.
Right. And so I'm going to call you out on something.
Please. Yeah.
You made me twitchy when I saw in your 17 hats workflow that you had to get the contact into your CRM program, or are you just making sure
it's the update? It's the update. So I always want to make sure we have additional details because I have a short question portion of it, right? Okay. And we need to update additional emails, phone numbers that we get on a phone call, additional notes, all of that.
Okay.
Yes, I avoided the twitch. There we go.
Okay. Carry on. I interrupted again. Go ahead.
But actually, you're right on that. And so one of the ones that I had listed here deals with stuff like you're talking about. Sadly, it's not really available anymore. PieSync.
Right.
So PieSync it's a great application. It was purchased by HubSpot. So they're no longer taking, I just saw the notification today, they're no longer taking new clients or accounts, but it would take any of your contact information and you can share it to all your different apps. So it's the same everywhere. So your emails, right? You've got all your contacts in your email, but your CRM is different. How many people are always trying to find the right place for the right phone number for the right person? That's what something like that would do.
Right.
And with Zapier, you could rebuild the world with Zapier almost. It's like MacGyver for apps, right?
Yep, it is the MacGyver of apps. And so, I think there's a couple of things that are the biggest strengths of Zapier, and one of them is contact information. Because when an application goes into beta in Zapier, they always start with new contact. So once they have shown that their app can handle new contact, then they start adding other possibilities from Zapier. Nice. But it's the only thing you can get out of Zapier with your apps. If they never move on from contact, it's still pretty cool because you're not shifting information around. And one of the strongest things you can do with it is have a central hub of a spreadsheet. I know that sounds old school. Have a spreadsheet where it's at some point dumping into that spreadsheet. So, right, because then you can take that and put it wherever else you want it. So have a hub spreadsheet in the middle. So, Acuity sending into, because I don't use the scheduler in 17 Hats. I'm too lazy to onboard it. I'm just lazy, right?
That's workflow. There are certain aspects like the Acuity, aesthetically pleasing. Acuity looks so much nicer, and the notifications, everything else for scheduling, love that. But 17 Hats on that part is not, it doesn't do as good, right? So
except my husband's killing it with 17 Hats scheduler, but I managed to get his done, but I'm the shoemaker's child, right? So anyways, because Acuity isn't causing me any trouble. So, it's sitting on the back burner. Anyways, yeah. But Acuity sends the contact, into this spreadsheet, and then that spread, I have a whole complicated series of where my contacts are going. But even if you have a native integration, 17 Hats has a native integration with QBO. If anybody has ever used a contact integration one way with QBO, it's junk. It sends over first and last name only into the first name field. That's not a 17 Hats thing. That's a one-way integration thing. So I don't do that. As soon as somebody signs a contract or pays a bill or accepts a quote, then they go into my QuickBooks file, and then the invoice will follow. But I want the good information in. So even apps that natively speak to each other may not do a great job of it, especially if they're what's called one-way sync apps, right? Relationships.
So, and to just explain that a little bit better, so there's a one-way sync, two-way sync, and I know we're getting pretty close here, and we'll give you a chance to close out. I want you to tell everybody about your group as well. But one-way sync, two-way sync. One-way sync is you connect the app the first time, it's going to grab information and suck it over maybe, but once it's done that, it doesn't ever do it again. From that point on, it's only going to send from the third-party app to QuickBooks. That's it. Yeah, now, and it has to have sometimes it runs into situations where if you have a typo in a name, you now have duplicate like people
Yes.
inside, all kinds of different variances like that. It's
Yep.
also usually where you start to see where companies, if they're dealing with the accounting side, will think that journal entries are an acceptable integration. Journal entries are not an acceptable integration, not for a true integration. Two-way sync is it's a lot harder to code and to do because now you have both apps that are doing a handshake, sharing information both ways, but one of them has to be primary and say, no, I'm always source of truth,
Yes.
your backup, but we're going to talk together. And because what happens if you actually had both changes on both sides by accident and they synced at the same time, which one wins? But that's how you get apps like Notify that can pull from QuickBooks Online expenses into Notify to use for job costing, or it can also take from T-Sheets into Notify to push in like that. When you start getting multiple apps, you need to really pay attention to the data quality, right?
Yep, for sure.
So now you have a Facebook group as well, and I want to make sure all of our members are familiar with it as well. It's called the Workflow Watering Hole. Tell us about it. What's it about? What workflow?
It's about workflow. It's also about productivity. It's about the tech that powers productivity, efficiency, workflow. It's like there's lots of the app partners are in there answering questions,
Mhm.
not yah rahaing their product. That's not what it's about. Although occasionally I'll do a partner spotlight if I think something is new and cool. So I hopefully a lot of people found out about auto review that way. And there's anyways.
Yep.
So but it's not a raw sell app one, but the app partners are listening. So be nice. My clients are in there. So be nice to me. Actually, I will say my entire group is really, really, really collaborative, super nice. I
Yep.
don't have a whole lot of hassles in there. I rarely have to take anything down. I've got that one dude, Richard Ropa, that I gotta manage in
I
my
hate it when he does that stuff.
moderation alerts. But no, it's so. But we every once in a while we'll talk about like personal efficiency too.
Yep.
I haven't done as much lately, but I mean, it's sometimes I'll lecture to, get out there and get underneath your sink and clean it out because it's a mindset, right?
Absolutely.
Organization and efficiency doesn't just happen at work. It's totally a mindset. And so, stuff like
Good stuff.
that. I go off track. There is no bell for me in the workflow watering hole per se. Um, but I just really, really like my members are just really super collaborative. So yeah, workflow really, but also efficiency, productivity, technology, all the fun stuff, right?
Definitely is. We would definitely recommend it from this group. It's so if you haven't checked out the group, that's why I wanted to make sure to share it, and
Well, thank you.
everybody will benefit from that as well. So now coming up, I always like to kind of share. If you've got some other future events you want to tell about as well, please feel free to share them. I do want to do a quick shout out again for Linda. She's been building out a group, the Accountants Law Lab, that they do on Fridays, specific for legal. So if you want to check that one out, definitely can. This whole PDF will be posted, and all this stuff has links. There was a whole bunch of slides I skipped through, which were the different apps where it's just images of them. Each one of those are clickable. You can go straight to their site. Same thing with these things. So we've got coming up on the 28th, Hector is doing a whole bunch, actually there's a group of people. It's a whole like series around payroll. It's basically a payroll services conference. So register for that if you are interested in doing more about payroll. It's free and put on by QuickBooks. And then do you have anything you want to share about? Anything coming up event wise?
I do. I have a webinar next week on choosing it's a 3-part series with Financial Sense.
Nice.
Yeah, which is an app I'm loving. I implemented it for my own firm for my work. So 17 Hats is for onboarding and communications, and Financial Sense is where I'm getting my bookkeeping work done. And then ClickUp
Love
is
it.
to work on my business, right? But
Love it.
we know how that goes working on our business. Anyways, so it's the second in a 3-part series. The first one is creating your ideal client profile. This one is creating your ideal tech stack.
Okay.
And then
Beautiful.
And then there is one creating something. It's a 3-part series. It's in the workflow watering hole. You can find out about it, or Google financialsense.com.
I'll try to grab a link and put it into the chat of this after the video so people could try to register for that as well, if that works for you. So
I can put it into the chat.
And then, so for next week, we've got our guest excuse me, next week's guest is going to be a good friend of mine, Maurice Verdugo, with LedgerSync. LedgerSync, something people, you either have heard of it or you haven't. There's some new life and some new stuff coming up with LedgerSync I'm really excited about. They've been working on their backend platform, trying to improve their ability to grab transactions, check images, everything else. And they started to work with a company called Finicity. And Finicity is the company that used to do bank feeds for Intuit a long time ago. Well, there's a little secret that MasterCard bought Finicity. And Maurice has been talking and working with Finicity that they're going to be dedicating extra developers specifically towards LedgerSync. And he's going to be coming on. He wants to hear from everybody what institutions they need most. We're going to put up a survey so people can kind of tell us which ones they should focus on first. But I think we're going to finally start to have another solution towards grabbing check images. I know in Canada, you guys don't have that as much, but down here, and we love our stinking checks all the time. So is deposit detail, so forth. And last but not least, Kelly, I just wanted to thank you for coming on and joining us as a co-host this week. I think I lost your video though, but Kelly died, she jumped off. So Kelly, thank you so much for coming on as a co-host. Really, really appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for joining us again this week. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And as always, is wishing you all a very successful week. Bye.
Bye.